Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We have a fantastic Thursday night showdown on DraftKings between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings. There's an injury on this slate that has made a lot of value pop in the receiving core for Minnesota, and there's a ton of volume available as always in that Pittsburgh offense. So I'm going to go through both teams, break down how I go about building these lineups on DraftKings, and we're going to take a look at everything that there is to talk about on this slate, as well as build an underdog fantasy pick'em. We did pretty well on the win game with Buffalo. I suck at pick'em, guys. I've been really bad at all year, but I'm on a little bit of a hot streak right now, so we'll see if we can keep that going as well. So thank you guys for watching this video. Drop a like on it. We have that 10% rule. If this video gets like 7,000 likes, we got to have, over 7,000 views, then we got to have over 7,000 or 700. God, I suck at numbers and everything today. God damn it. What is wrong with me? Take two. If there are 7,000 views on the video, we got to have over 700 likes. God, I'm not even out of the intro yet. Drop a reply down below. I don't know. Laugh at me. Do something. Let's go.
He's a legend.
We're approaching 50,000 likes here on the YouTube channel. I appreciate all the support over the years, the clicks, the likes, the subscribes, everything that you guys have done. And to give back, when we hit that 50000 number, we're going to be giving away some 1 month subscriptions to rotogrinders to establish the run, some DraftKings stuff, some underdog swag and tickets, all when we hit 50K. I think we're like 400 away right now when I started doing this video. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's take a look over at Underdog Fantasy. So this is what they got right now on the menu. I'm sure that there will be more as we get closer to lock, and some of these are going to change as time goes along. Use code ALSMIZZLE, all one word, and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. So that's like a couple of free bets, right? So like if you deposit $100, use that code ALSMIZZLE, you get $100 put in your account that you can then spend either on what, hell, you got a free $100 bet, or you got a whole bunch of other, you could split it up in any way that you want. Unders are sharper, but they're no fun. Not like even a little bit. I'm going to go over one interception, over a half of an interception. I think he throws at least one in this game. Let's go over 254 passing yards. Let's go over 27 receiving yards. Let's go over Deontay Johnson there. And I'm going to leave this 93.5 alone, even with the injury that there is out there with THIELEN. Let's go for this one for $50 to win 500. You want to play a 2-player pick'em? It's 3-1. You play a 3, it's 6-1. 4 is 10-1. 5 is 20-1. I'm going to put myself out there and go for this one. We'll click submit on that, confirm. That takes us, hopefully, to our card. It has been put in. Those are the numbers. They will change by the time the game kicks off, but do your thing. Looking over at the slate, this game has a total of 45 with a Vikings favored by 3.5. I think that Kirk Cousins is a viable captain in this spot. Not like somebody that you want to overweight in captain. I'll probably end up, I typically limit to like 15% max at captain. I'm probably going to have no more than like 7% of Kirk Cousins at captain. But in the lineups that I do have Kirk Cousins, I mentioned the injury to Adam Thielen. He has been deemed out for this weekend's game. He had a high ankle sprain, and I kind of expected him to be out for this game. I did not think that he was going to be able to come back on a short week and get there, which opens up a little bit of value. It does a few things. I think that Gronklin is going to not get 9 targets, but get more than the 3 that he saw the 2 weeks prior to that. So solid value for him at 6,200. I also believe that KJ Osborne is going to be the, let's see, preferred by the public value play. He's 5,600, should slide into a much higher volume of snaps role this week. But also, if we look way down here at 2,200, I think DEDE WESTBROOK is going to play a lot of snaps too. Even if he just fulfills that normal KJ Osborne role and gets you like 3 to 5 targets at 2,200, his value is extremely palpable on this slate, considering Pittsburgh does a good job defensively of getting pressure on quarterbacks. They're leading the league in sacks, but like we're still, if we are going to play Kirk Cousins, because they have been a defense that we can't attack, we're going to do it through Justin Jefferson, who is not going to be under 5% on this slate, as he has been far too many times this year. The kid's just a monster. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. He's great. Already establishing himself as one of the top 5, top 10 wide receivers in the league for fantasy and in real life. He's always freaking open, right? And I'm going to talk about this when I get to the Steelers portion, because people put too much emphasis on drops as the thing. Not that Justin Jefferson drops the ball. I'm speaking more to his ability to separate. Have you seen very much this year? Like, every time Justin Jefferson makes a catch, if you're watching the Vikings games, there's nobody within like 3 to 5 yards of him ever. He's always wide open, even in small spaces. They don't have to sneak it in through, like, they don't have to thread a needle to get him the ball. He's just always open. That is a ridiculous skill. Diontae Johnson also does a great job of getting open. We like to see wide receivers that do well with contested catches, right? That's a good thing. Like Steph Diggs, very good at contested catches on his career. But for a lot of guys, like Jamar Chase, who does not get great separation all the time, he has to make more contested catches. So if you're not going to get separation, you better be great at contested catches. Justin Jefferson, always freaking open. Like, he's the AM PM. He's 7-Eleven, 24 hours a day. He's always open. So these Kirk Cousins stacks I'm going to use with Jefferson. I'm going to put Conklin in there. The big matzo ball that's sitting out there right now is Dalvin Cook. He sat out Monday's walkthrough, returned to practice. He's listed as questionable. The rumors are that he's going to be limited for this game, which means that once again, you can go back to Alexander Madison. Both have been priced up to a point where if he's out, it doesn't make Madison a must play, who's a hyper value. But we know what he does in the games without Dalvin Cook. 22 attempts, 3 targets, 25 attempts, 7 targets. The other week that Dalvin Cook was out, 26 attempts, 8 targets. Very valuable running back 1 on the games where he's out. I'm not going to include him in my cousin stacks, but I'm not going to disallow either. Will include Osborne, of course. Going to include the kicker in that, and Westbrook. And you can include one of these other guys because it's Showdown. So somebody like Herndon only needs like 1 10-yard catch to pay off. And if they happen to get into the end zone on one of those plays, he might be one of those players that sneaks his way in, like a player of this ilk, right? I'm not saying him specifically, but a player of this ilk who's clearly going to be less than 20% on the slate. And if they catch a touchdown like Gabriel Davis did last game, he ends up in the winning lineup. Same thing goes for if you think that Justin Jefferson is going to be the optimal captain. And typically speaking, this year on DraftKings specifically, on Showdown slates, the wide receiver is the optimal captain. Running backs come in right behind them, especially pass catching running backs. They have the highest percentage of being the highest scoring player on a slate. Therefore, they end up as the optimal captain in those slates. I am going to tie Kirk Cousins to him in those situations. I'm probably not going to include Gronklin in my captains group, and I'm probably not going to include KJ Osborne either in my captain group. I'm a little bit restrictive on how many players I allow, and if it's one of those nights where an off-brand player ends up as the captain, then I'm just not going to win. So kind of, I'm willing to accept that. Taking a look over here at NFL Savant, we'll click on the Vikings. We'll come over here. We'll click targets. Adam Thielen vacating 23.4% of the target market share. This is kind of what I was talking about. Gronklin's got to eat a little bit. Osborne's got to eat a little bit. And then the running backs are going to get what they get. But then DD Westbrook slides into this much higher usage role and possibly getting 10 to 12% of the targets as opposed to getting not very many at all. Going over to Pittsburgh, same thing. If you're going to have Cousins at quarterback, you're going to build that group with like all the opposing players. Now, the separation argument, Diontae Johnson last year had a bunch of drops, like 12 of them. This year, he had his first drop of the season last week, and this is what I was trying to say to you, that like drops are overrated, right? We have this tendency in society today to think that we need to all be scientists, because like the job of scientists is to poke holes in every possible argument, right? Like that's one scientist says, hey, I have an idea. I have this theory. I think that this is a thing. And then every other scientist's job is to say, oh yeah, let me see if I can prove you wrong. That is the absolute job of every scientist in the world. Unfortunately, social media has turned everybody into thinking that they are social scientists. And if I say, hey, Diontae Johnson is a good wide receiver, they're going to say, Oh, yeah? Well, he dropped some balls last year. So what? 11 targets, 14 targets, 13 targets, 13 targets, 13 targets, 13 targets, 13 targets, 12 targets. Like, drops aren't sticky. But as long as you're somebody who can get constant separation, like Diontae Johnson does, they're going to keep throwing you the football. And as I said, he did have a very high-profile drop last week in that game against Baltimore, like a 45-yard touchdown pass that was right here and it just bounced off his hands. That was his first drop of the 2021 season. And he's got a fantastic matchup this weekend, this Thursday again, and I think you should play him. Him and Jefferson are probably the two most optimal captains on the slate. If you're going to use him as your captain, you're probably going to want to tie Ben Roethlisberger to him. Najee Harris also, because of the volume that he gets, including the inside the 5, very viable at captain as well. Nothing needing to be done here. Maybe like excluding the opposing defense if you're going to have Najee Harris in that, because if Najee Harris is going off and has like 25 to 30 carries, that means that Pittsburgh is theoretically throwing the ball less, which means less opportunities for a defense to score. But like, I don't set any running back rules. We're going to go over those in a minute. And then play whoever you want with the rest of them. There's a lot of injuries out there for Pittsburgh's pass catchers, but the Muth should be Luth once again. 4 targets only the last 2 games, but really high end zone and red zone usage. Really like him every single week. Diontae Johnson with his ridiculous 27% of targets. Chase Claypool, in the absence of Juju Smith-Schuster, has been getting 16, regardless of whatever off-field stuff you think he's causing. Right behind him is Najee Harris. If I was going to build that Ben Roethlisberger group, and I'm not really going to have a lot of Ben Roethlisberger at captain because I don't think that there's very many paths to Ben having like a 30 to 40 point fantasy day, which is what's necessary for a quarterback to be the captain. But I know somebody's going to say, but I want Ben to be the captain. So like, fine. This is the group I would build. It would still be all of those guys, but I'd include Harris in that group because he gets such a high frequency of targets, including the kicker and everything else. And I build that bring back group as well. I'm going to limit to 1 kicker in defense in this game. So heading over to Fantasy Labs, we'll click on their optimizer. We will build 150 lineups. We're going to tell it to look into the settings here as I have my template saved for Showdown right here. Oh, look, it even says Showdown. Load. I'm going to allow it to leave some salary on the table in some of these lineups because you have to do that. I don't allow a kicker or a defense and captain. If there is a slate where the defense ends up being the optimal captain, that's just a showdown that I'm not going to win. You can't cover every base when you're building a lot of lineups. And if you're mass multi-entering, they do have really cheap tournaments, 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent. If you want to see if you're the next mass multi-entry god on DraftKings or FanDuel, this allows you to do that. And the tools over at Fantasy Labs, go to smizzle.tv/labs with a capital L. You get a discounted membership over there for NBA or for NFL if you're still playing for the rest of the season, or they have the all sports membership as well. So here are my rules. Pair the captain quarterback with at least 2 of the pass catchers and the kicker. Pair the captain quarterback with at least 1 of the opponents, not including the kicker or the defense. Pair the captain wide receiver with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. Pair the captain tight end with his quarterback as well, and limit to at most 1 defense and kicker from the same game. The player group that I'm going to build, I'm not going to do it right now because we don't have percentages yet and I don't have an idea. Pick 5 to 8 players that you think are going to be under 20% on the night in the flex. Add them to this group so that you get a little bit of differentiation throughout your lineups, because Showdown is always going to be a game where there's going to be shared lineups. Click apply settings. But when we win that Showdown slate, I want to be sure that I'm sharing with as few people as possible. I want that uniqueness in my lineup, but I don't need to get contrarian or too contrarian to make that happen. I just need to force 1 low play at least into every one of those lineups. Click submit. It's going to build 150 lineups. Do not copy these lineups. They're being sorted by floor, and it's a couple days before the game kicks off. It's more about learning how to build your lineups, whether you're building them by hand or using an optimizer. So use those correlation rules, because Showdown is all about correlation to put yourself in the best position to win. That's all there is to it. Make sure that you look for another video right there. He's a legend.